Aquini, that's peace in my language. My name is Paul Walpi Neoport, and that's Winds of Thunder. And I'm the Sagamore of the Pokanoket tribe of the Pokanoket Nation. If I give you the full title, it's the Council 7 Royal House, Pokanoket tribe of the Pokanoket Nation. This spot here was one of our primary villages. The first expeditions to lands within the Pokanoket realm was by a Portuguese captain named Miguel Cordeiro. That was in 1504. And then about 24 years later, I guess 1524, Giovanni Ferrazzano came here to these shores, and he sailed into the Narragansett Bay, and from the Narragansett Bay he sailed into Mount Hope Bay. And he recorded in his log a latitude of 41 degrees 40 north, which put him right parallel to the sea of the Massasoit. You'll hear other tribes tell you that they were first contact people, but he was right here observing the Pokanoket people, and he wrote in his log that they were the goodliest people he had ever seen, because they was always lifting their hands to the Creator and praising the Creator. So I am the 10th generation great-grandson of the Massasoit and Osamico who welcomed pilgrims to this country. A lot of people think of Massasoit as his name, but Massasoit is a title. It means great leader. He's the great leader of the largest Indian nation in colonial America. There's no nation larger than our nation. There was 60 tribes, bands, and clans in the nation. And the Massasoit's name was Osamico, which is yellow feather in our language. He had 5 children that we know of. The oldest son was Wamsutta, and then there was Metacomet, or Po Metacomet. You see it spoken, written many different ways. But usually when they put the prefix Po in front of the name, it means of Pokanoket.
Wamsutta is Alexander?
Pardon?
Is Wamsutta Alexander?
Wamsutta was Alexander, right? But I didn't get to that yet. But anyway, but Po Metacom was Metacomet of Pokanoket, and then the next son was Sekanuku, and he had 2 daughters, Myoni, and the other one was Amy, and Amy was married to Tussaquin, and he was of the Massasoit tribe, which is over there in the Lakeville area, and he was known as the Black Sachem because he practiced black magic. And of course, the people in that era, they were afraid of black magic, and that's when they were burning the witches and Salem and so forth and so on. So they weren't too happy with the Tussaquin. It was on this property here, the Myri Swamp area is where King Philip was killed. During the time of colonial days there, the Wamsutta petitioned the governor of the King of England to give them Christian names, or English names. And they gave them names Philip, Metacomet, and Alexander for Wamsutta. And those are not English names. They're actually Greek names. Alexander the Great and Philip of Macedonia. And our family was always told us that the English believed that the Greeks were heathen, and they thought the Indians were heathen, and that's why they gave them Greek names. All right? And so basically that's how they got those names. Philip, in our nation, in our tribe, it was your birthright. We didn't vote our chiefs in. In other words, the Massasoit, when he died, his eldest son, Wamsutta, became the Massasoit. They poisoned him up in Plymouth. Then around 2000, when we were doing our petition, we had to go to England, to Bermuda, to prove that they sent for rat poison to get rid of the pest. The pest was Wamsutta. And they were afraid of Wamsutta. He was a very proud man, and he was groomed to be the Massasoit. He was the eldest son. So Philip was forced into that position. He wasn't groomed to be the, and so because of that, they categorized Philip as the greatest Indian chief of all time, as warrior. And the Massasoit, his father, Osamequin, was the most recognized chief of all the chiefs in the United States of America. Yes.
What was his wife's name? Massasoit.
I don't know.
They don't know.
Nobody
Okay.
knows what his wife's name was. But I can tell you that who his wife was. The Massasoit was married to the queen of the Nipmucs. And he died in Quaboar, which is up in Brookfield, North Brookfield, West Brookfield, Mass. He died in his wife's village, and they brought him back here to Burris Hill to be buried. Burris Hill is the royal burial ground. There's only 2 royal burial grounds that I know of. One is in Lakeville, and the other one's right here in Warren. They call it, some people just refer to it as an Indian. There's only something like 40-something graves there, but they were all a royal family. And so his son brought him back here because Wamsutta was handling the business of the Wampanoag Nation, but at that time there was no Wampanoag. The first 50 years of encounters with the European, they never even heard of the word Wampanoag. It was never written anywhere in their history. It was never spoken. And so when you mention the Massasoit, Osamequin, and Wampanoag, it's just not true. You know, that was a name that they gave to the Poconoke during the King Philip War, somewhere around 1675, 1676. And that was given to them because the colonial government outlawed the word Poconoke. And if you were male 14 years of age or older and you say you were Poconoke, they'd kill you on sight, or they could kill you on sight. So that's why a lot of people say Poca what? Poca, they don't know who Poconoke is because they stopped using the term. They try to expunge it from the dictionary. And so basically, but since I became the Sagamore, and I am the Sagamore of the Poconoke tribe, I'm also the Sagamore of the affiliated tribes of New England, and I am the superior chief of FANA, which is the Federation of Aboriginal Nations in America, of the Americas, I should say, and in that capacity I represent over 6,000 Indians down the East Coast of the United States, and 2 tribes of Puerto Rico, indigenous tribes are called Taínos, and one in Dominica.
What's the Sachem level? Because you're not saying you met
Sachem
Massasoit.
is our word for chief. The English word is chief, we say Sachem. Okay.
What about Massasoit?
Massasoit is a title. He's leader.
So is there a Massasoit, a leader above you?
No, there is no Massasoit above me because we gave the title of Massasoit to our creator back in 1993. We said there will never be another Massasoit in the tribe. And so I'm a Sagamore or Grand Sachem, and that's as high as we can go in this tribe. So I am the Grand Sachem of the nation. All right. Of course, today the nation is not what it was in the time of the Pilgrim, because of course they committed genocide on the people to take their land, and basically that's what happened during the Wamsutta. For instance, he fought Uncas over the Nipmucs. Now you probably say, well, how you know that he was married, to the his mother was Nipmuc. Well, that's he fought Uncas over the Nipmucs in I'm trying to think of the year 1660. It was the year 1660, 1661, the year his father was on his deathbed. And he fought him because Uncas, when Uncas was run out of New York State by the Mohawks, we hear the story of the last of the Mohegans, the Mohawks were running Uncas out of New York State. He had to get permission from the Grand Sachem of the Quaboar Nipmuc Nation. That's who the Massasoit was married with, his daughter, in order to come into Connecticut where he settled. And then years later, when he gained strength, he tried to make the Nipmucs a tributary tribe to him. And Wamsutta's mother told him, you take care of Uncas, I'll take care of your father. So he fought Uncas. If you read the history, And Uncas was a nasty character. He wasn't well liked by the other Indian chiefs around here.
Who did he have support him with? What tribe was he from? Was he
Well,
from the Mohegans?
Uncas was actually a renegade from the Pequot tribe.
Okay.
All right, and so when he came back here, he, like I say, he was run out of New York by the Mohawks, and he had to get permission to settle in that area, and then he tried to make the Nanawanha, and that's who the Grand Sachem of the Nipmuc Nation was, paid tribute to him. And of course, Uncas fought, and he said, the Nipmucs belong to me, and I fought Uncas over in the summer. If you read the history, and a lot of that history is available today. It wasn't when I was coming up.
Yes.
Today you have the internet, the World Wide Web, and you can get this information. It's in the Brown Archive, it's in the Yale Archive, in the Harvard Archive, and they're all telling the same story. So you read a lot of stuff today that's contemporary. I don't even read it because they're just giving you their slant on what they read. You know, a lot of what we did for our position was passed down to us orally, and we had to go find the information. And basically, we found all the information that was given to us. I am a 10th generation great grandson of the Massasoit. I'm the 9th generation great grandson of Metacomet. I'm the 6th generation great grandson of Simeon Simon. I don't know if you ever heard of a Simeon Simon. Simeon Simon, excuse me, was George Washington's hand-picked bodyguard. When George Washington came to Patchogue, Connecticut to take over the Revolutionary forces, Simeon Simon was out there training all his men. They were frolicking in front of the inn there. And of course, the Indians were a lot bigger than the English. I don't know if you've ever seen the Mayflower down there, but if you see the size of those beds, your kids, they were small people. George Washington was a big man for his day. George Washington, he was about 6'1". He was really a big man for his day. And they said if there was ever hand-to-hand combat, the English would have been in deep trouble because the Indians were farmers, you know, they farmed the land, you know, they were fishermen and whatnot. And so basically, when George Washington came to Patchogue to take over the Revolutionary forces, my great-grandfather, 6 generations out there, couldn't always call him in, wanted to know who he was. And this is in the way, you can read this, and you can go run out of archives and get this. You can go through the, I'm trying to think of the woman's group, Daughters of the Revolution. The people in my family are members of the Revolution because Simeon went that day when George Washington became a Revolutionary soldier, and he received a pension as a Continental soldier, which is a higher pension than the regular army. He served with them all through the Revolutionary War. He was with them in the Valley Forge, when he crossed the Delaware. We always told in our family that Indian in the boat with George Washington crossing Delaware, that's your great-grandfather, Simeon Simon. That is Metacomet's great-grandson. So that's how my line comes down to me. So in order to be a chief in our tribe, you have to, I have 6 sub-chiefs under me, like one from Amy's line, and one from Anawan's line. And Anawan was a head Pioneer warrior for the Pokanoket Nation. He was a head Pioneer warrior for Osamequin and then for his son, Metacomet. And actually, Anawan was Metacomet's uncle. Anawan was married to the Massasoit sister. So that's, you know, but the chief's daughters usually married the chief's son, and this is how they kept track of things during that time. The English, they wrote what they thought they knew, but if they actually knew the history, they would have known that the Massasoit's father was actually Narragansett, and his mother, his father's name was Mika, and the other name they called him was Maxana. But and his mother was actually King Ninigrit's daughter. So I don't know if you ever heard of Princess Redwing.
Yes.
Princess Redwing is my mother's first cousin. She was the last chief before me. She died in 1989. She was in her 90s. She's probably the most renowned Indian here in New England. She's in the Rhode Island Heritage Hall of Fame. She's mentioned in the Book of Honor. She's mentioned as one of the 1,000 most notable women in the world, not America. And she was also 2000 some other accolade besides her name. And that's the act that I had to follow. And I'll tell you truthfully, I never really wanted to be the chief. My elders made me the chief. I had first cousins who were old enough to be my parents. That's how great a disparity in age there was, between the eldest and the youngest. But I finally I got the vision. My brother, who was Powers, the spiritual leader of the nation, he's older than me. He's 84, and I'm getting up there myself. I'm closer to 80 than I am to 70, let's put it that way. But I'm only admitting to 39 of them. It's good enough for Jack Benny, right?
How will they determine who will follow you?
That's determined by the chiefs and the council. And the council, in order to be on the council, you have to come from the Massasoit family line. So the people on our council, they come from Quanaquina's line. Quanaquina would be the Massasoit's brother. I have people, what other line? We have people from Anawan's line. So you have to be, in the family.
Okay.
But in order to be the head chief of this tribe, you have to come from Philip. You can't come from Anawan. I have a chief from Anawan's line. We have a chief from Amy's line, because that's their birthright. That's their birthright. They were chiefs. And we have a chief from, I'm trying to think the other line we have. Amy, Philip, Quanaquina's line. So that's the way it comes down in our tribe. You have to be the royal line. In order to be in the tribe, you have to come from the royal line, and that's your birthright. To be a member of the tribe. Of course, you can be put out of the tribe. The council runs the tribe. I don't run the tribe. I answer to the council also. So it's called the Council of Seven. Princess Redwing, who preceded me, a lot of the Constitution. Actually, she helped the Narragansetts with their Constitution. She used to be a dove press. I don't know if any of you know what that is, but that's the museum that the Narragansetts have. Well, she was the founder of that museum, Princess Redwing. And so basically she was our personal pen pal with Eleanor Roosevelt. Like I said, she had and she was the first Indian to address the United Nations. And that was in 1946. She addressed the United Nations because she was on some committees down there at that time in its infancy. So like I said, that's the act that I had to follow. So,
and I'd like you to give us a straight story.
He was betrayed. He was betrayed by one of his own people. And Alderman was the guy that was up here that led the English into the fiery swamp, and he was with the longest halt of 1676. Just about daybreak when they ambushed him in the miry swamp. And Alderman actually was the one that fired the shot that killed him. Alderman was Indian from the Pecasset tribe. I believe it's Pecasset or Massasoit. But Tussaquin was Pecasset. So those people over there call themselves Pecasset, but they're actually from Amy's line. And the land, when you talk about the land mass, it all belonged to the Massasoit. Their chief's signatures weren't on any of the land deeds. The names you'll find on the land deed would be Philip, Wamsutter, the Massasoit, Osamiquin. Occasionally you would find a Coplin, and a Coplin was the Massasoit's, another brother of the Massasoit. He was younger than Quanaquina, younger than the Massasoit. He was killed during the Kinfolk War. And Quanaquina. But basically, he was ambushed dawn, daybreak, 1676, August 12, 1676, and he was fleeing. He got fired. I think he got hit in the chest, and then they hit him in the back. So because he was the one that was going to the English with information about Philip getting ready to go to war, and Wamsutter was going to go to war against him too, because they knew that The English had people that interpret for them, and basically, when the English came here, that wasn't their first contact with the Europeans, because they had been doing fur trade with the French and different other Europeans. And basically, that's how we learned how to scalp. We learned that from the Europeans. They got paid for every scalp that they got. That's how they proved that they killed an Indian. And so we didn't do the scalping. We learned scalping from them. So these are the stories that they tell about Indians that are not true. All right. And so basically, when the English came here, it was actually an Abenaki Sagamore who greeted them. He said, "Welcome, Englishmen." It wasn't Pisquantum. And then he went and he got Pisquantum, or you call Squantum. Pisquantum was his name, and he got the Massasoit. He brought them to the Pilgrims, and of course Squanto was left with the Pilgrims because his people had been killed. His whole tribe had been wiped out, and but they knew English because they were taken captive years before and taken over to England. They learned the language, but Squanto evidently knew the language even better than Samoset. And that was the other guy. He was an Abenaki Sagamore, and that's, chief of the chiefs. And that was, at that time, there was no Maine, so that was, that was all Massachusetts. There was no Maine then, all right? And I think it was until the 1800s became, Maine, but at that time it was all Massachusetts, so.
Excuse me again. The part about his death, though, is what I want to hear from you. The story is that they killed Metacomet, right?
Yeah.
And then they put his head
all right, I'll tell
on
you
a stick, stick somewhere.
Before they did that, they quartered his body.
Is this true?
Yeah, it's true. They hung his head on. Listen.
This is what the English
This is what they
did.
did. You ever heard that? Off with your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the English did. They did that to Tussaquid. They did that to Weedamoo. Weedamoo was the squaw sachem of the Picasset. Weedamoo was married to Wamsutta. Metacomet was married to Weedamoo's sister, Wantanuski. Wantanuski. They messed that name all up. But anyway, there were two brothers that were married to two sisters. So if you look at the land of Tiverton, the only names on that deed over there was my great-grandfather Philip, Wantanuski, my great-grandmother, Wamsutta, and Weedamoo. Weedamoo was a squaw sachem of the Picasset tribe. They took her head off too. They quartered Philip's body here, and they gave it to the chiefs. And they ate it. They ate his, parts of his body.
Chiefs of where? Which tribe?
Of different tribes, because they felt that they're very superstitious people, and they felt that if they ate his body, they'd be stronger than he was. All right, and so this is why and then they took his head and they hung it on a pole, they hung it up there in Plymouth Plantation for 25 years.
Where now? Exactly?
Plymouth Plantations.
So that would be on the
In Plymouth,
coast.
Yep, on a pole.
Can you just talk about the belts?
Well,
Is that a
I
true?
wish I could talk about the belts because we haven't seen their belts since Philip was killed.
Is it true that the English was supposed to bring it to the king to prove that he was dead?
The English have the belts, yes. The English have the belts. And what happened was Anawan, when he was captured, because Anawan was here. When Philip was captured, Anawan got away, and he got away with, some of the relatives, because a lot of the people that were with Philip here, he had just come back from upstate New York. During the winter campaign, he was up there with Canacha, the chief of the Narragansett, because Canacha was his cousin. So they'll tell you that the Narragansetts and the Poconokas, that they got along, but they had their squads. And Canonicus was actually Massasoit's uncle. That's why he got away with the things he got away with. But Massasoit had more land than the Narragansetts because he was a greater warrior. He was a great warrior and a protector of the people. He actually protected the the Massachusetts tribes from the New York tribes, upstate New York. That's why Philip was going upstate New York to get their help to fight against the English. But what he did is he made a mistake, and he tried to make it look like the English attacked and killed one of their tribal people, but it was him that attacked them, and the guy wasn't dead. And they went back and they spilled the beans on Philip because he was going up there to solicit their help. And so actually, they had a change of heart because from what we know, right here, we call this here mountain here, you call it Mount Hope, we call it Patumtuck, which in our language means look out of Poconoke. That's what the Patumtuck is. It means look out of Poconoke. Well, from Patumtuck, they took like 75 to 100 feet off the top of this mountain during the 50s. They made a Nike site. There was a Nike site here during the 50s. All right, guided missiles. All right. You know, when I say stuff like that, people look at me. You know, but you know, I was a kid growing up in the 40s and 50s. Like I said, I'm old rivers. And so we used to send smoke signals on a clear day. When I came up here in the 90s, you could see from here to Mount Wachusett, which is in Massachusetts, without field glasses. We used to send smoke signals from here to Mount Wachusett. Then from Mount Wachusett, we would send smoke signals up to Mount Monadnock, which is up in New Hampshire. And the reason why we send them up to there, because that's where the King Philip Trail is. Mount Monadnock, that was our territory. Everybody knows about the Wampanoag territory going down the Cape, Martha's Vineyard Island, Elizabeth Island, you know, all them islands out there. But they don't know that our territory actually went all the way up to New York State, Scotticut Falls, this side of the Hudson River. And that's why Philip was up there during his winter campaign with Penobscot, you know, planning out how they would go back to war here. And so basically, one of my relatives is the chief of that Scotticut tribe up there. He's a Simon. I'm from the Wheaton Simon line, and he is a Simon. But that territory belonged to us because of the fact that the Massasoit was an acknowledged head of the Quabog-Nipmuc nation. So if you read the history, that's why Norm Sutter said the Nipmucs belong to me. The Massasoit was the acknowledged head of that nation, and the grand sachem of that nation was Nanawanhak, and the other name that they would know him by would be Nashanunu and Old Ancient. They changed names. If they went to war, they would change their name. You know, Master Osameekman changed his name a couple of times too, and you know they didn't need much reason to do that. And so basically, that's how our territory went up there because that was all Nipmuc territory. And that, you know, no one knows what his wife's name was, but the last queen of the Poconoke Nation was Wantanuski, Philip's wife. Because once he became the Massasoit, his wife was the queen of the nation. When Weedamoo was married to Warm Sutter, she was the queen of the nation. Don't forget, Warm Sutter, he took over the Massasoit after his father died.
Bill, after Philip was killed, why was there no one to become chief and continue the war and possibly win it?
Well, now when what's her name? Anawan was a Sagamore, by the way. All right, Anawan was the one that had the belts. He took the belts when they caught him over in Rehoboth, and they talk about Anawan Rock over there, but that's not actually where it is. It's on a farm over there. They're selling you a bill of goods. Well, I know because my father's mother comes from Anawan's line. My father's mother, who was born in 1875, she always told me she come from Anawan's line.
So Anawan was the successor to Philip?
Nope. Anawan did not come from the Massasoit line. He was married to the Massasoit's wife. So he gave the belts to the governor Winthrop.
So he betrayed the people.
No, he didn't betray the people. He could not take and carry on that war.
So there was no one there to win the war.
He was captured, so that was.
Well, he was captured. Yeah, he was captured. He was captured at Anawan Rock.
Yeah.
That's where, and of course they called the governor up there to Boston, and of course he was in his 80s when they killed him. They weren't supposed to kill Anawan. Anawan, they were supposed to spare his life, but when they called Winthrop up to Boston, they killed him. When he came back, Anawan was dead. The belts went to England. The belts are still in England.
And there were no tribal leaders to take over.
Well, he was a leader, but he was not from the royal line. He was married to royalty.
And there was no one from the royal line who could take over and continue the war.
I don't know.
Well, they weren't by then. They were all dispersed all over the place. There was nobody left.
Weedamoo was dead.
Yeah.
Tussico was dead. Quantaquilla was dead. Apapa was dead. I mean, these were his brothers and brothers. And the last war captain that was captured was captured from here. And this is how my mother's people got up to Connecticut. They took Philip's relatives and his war captain, who was his cousin, and I can't pronounce the guy's name, so all that. I know the name, but I can't pronounce it. And they would put him on a reservation in Connecticut. It was called a Shetucket Reservation. And they put an overseer over them, and it was the Reverend Fitch who was the overseer over. Then they took the overseer away from them, and they put Uncas as the overseer. So when Uncas was goes, he was raping the woman and killing the old man, and so he kept coming down river until they ended up in the New London, Griswold area, and that's where my people, my mother's people settled. But the people they brought up there to put on that reservation were Philip's relatives, if you read the history, and the only woman that they mentioned of those captives was Philip's sister. That's the only woman because she was royalty. And that was my only, not Amy. Amy was the one that was married to Professor. Yes.
Council Oak and Dighton, you know anything about that area?
Council Oak and Dighton, that's a place where the Massasoit met with a lot of his chiefs and whatnot. They preserved that area. And there's a good friend of mine that is in our tribe. I've adopted him in our tribe. He had a lot to do with saving that land over there.
Yeah, I went to the
Roger DeRosa.
help get the money to
Yeah, Roger DeRosa, yeah.
Because I lived in Dighton. And I live in Dighton.
Okay.
I used to live in Dighton. And then
So
when they
you
were
know Roger,
actually going to
right.
buy that land, I went in, the client owed money. So they gave it, and the commission and other people gave money, company money to pay Wolf to own that property.
Yep.
And they bought around. The only thing is they changed the markers a little bit because the actual road went to a different side of that
Right.
tree. So when you go there, if you see those markers, that's actually where the road, which that came from the Berkeley Old Dighton Bridge, that granite. But
Yeah,
I noticed the
go
old
to-
fields are back there.
So they did have meetings there.
Oh yeah, they met.
There's a
there.
village,
Yep,
I
yep.
guess, over there.
But he met here also. This here was, like I said, this is one of our primary villages. Actually, before they took it, made just 2 mountains. It was just 1 mountain. They did a lot of dynamite in here and so forth, so on. I believe at one time there was a waterfall that came down off of this here, top of this mountain here. And of course, we call this here, whenever the Massasoit met with his chiefs, his Pianisi would be all up on top of here as lookouts, watching over him. Wherever the Massasoit went, he always had his Pianisis, which were our elite warriors that went with him, and the powwows. When I go to powwows, my powwows and one of my Pianisi actually go in the circle before me and cleanse the circle before I go in it, right? And that's my older brother. That's a little inside joke. We go out to speak, and he'll say, "Any of you people have younger brothers?" And they say, "Yeah." Well, you better be careful how you treat him. He might grow up to be the chief one day. But like I say, it was. I never, as a young kid, I grew up in the powwows, but I never really participated. Knew everything that went on. My older brother, my older sister, my younger sister, they were very much involved in it. I was there.
Well, you're in it now.
Pardon? I'm really in it now. But all the Indians, when they get federal recognition, the first thing the government does is they give them land, right? And so the Narragansetts have their land over there. Charlestown. And actually, that land they're on is not even Narragansett land. That is actually Niantic land. King Ninigret took in the Narragansett. Anyone over there that will tell you, if they know what they are, they'll tell you they're Niantic Narragansett. Because the Narragansett was basically wiped out with the Poconokas. We said King Philip had his women and children over there at the Great Swamp. Yeah. Our people were there too. Yeah. Because Niantione was Philip's cousin. You know, this is what the English didn't know. You know, and they say, well, why did he take them in? Because that was his first cousin. That's why. And basically, Mika and Canonicus were brothers. You know, and so basically, you know, they just didn't know. They wrote down what they thought they knew. And why do you think Canonicus, Canachet, their chiefs were all wiped out? Just like our chiefs were all, a lot of their chiefs were wiped out also. You know, but King Ninigret did not get in the war. He stayed out of the war. And so, you know, that land that he took in the Narragansett, he took in those people.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.